Let's get into it. If any of you are unfamiliar with Captivate, it is New Blue's live graphics and production powerhouse built for producers who want both flexibility without having to compromise on design and customization. So, whether you're a one-man band or a larger studio team, Captivate gives you the agility to deliver broadcast quality graphics that elevate your brand. So, if you've struggled with creating unique looks, or if you updating graphics with new data, maybe navigating some of the more overly complex tools out there, you're in the right place. So let's dive into today's session. If you have a free trial, if you have a license, feel free to follow along. And if not, you can grab a free trial. We can throw a link in the chat. You can go to our website and grab it however you want to do it. But let's dive right in. Just getting my monitors in order here, but all right, folks, we're looking at a built project using our Captivate, using our new Nexus collection, right? So I've built out a bunch of different shots here, all using live camera feeds and our graphics. So today we're bringing my video feed in with my really exciting background. You can see why I use that virtual background in Zoom. I can't hide it here right now. Anyway, we've got a couple of things for you. So if we're looking at our program window, which I'll make a little bit bigger over here, we've got a titled graphic with a countdown clock, right? Now, just kind of walking through the different elements of a project, right? If we're thinking about how we want this show to run, we can go to our lower third for me, right? And get that going. If I wanted to switch my camera angles, I can use our video switcher to switch which camera angle I'm using. Obviously, if I have multiple sources coming in, this could be multiple people as well. Now I can take this, move it into a one box, right? So now I've got a one box and I've got my name, my title. We've got the name of the show up there. And then over here, we've got a list about all the things we can look through in Captivate. I can update this lower third down here to make this more of a social lower third with a graphic I need to adjust a little bit, but we'll talk about how to make all these changes a little bit later. Just wanted to illustrate some elements of social. We can come over here and do a two box, right? Me, Naomi, multiple lower thirds, multiple different types of sources. We can, again, change what that lower third is actually going to be at the bottom. This was one I saw while watching some YouTube live streams the other day, a two box with two live people, and then a media sequence in the middle, right? So we've got that media sequence just running through a playlist of different videos, and both of us are commenting live about what's going on with that. We can also then cut to some full screen graphics, like some full screen social graphics, right? We're going to spend a lot of time on social graphics today, and then list graphics as well, right? So just to give you an idea of some of the types of productions, in my head, I see this as maybe a live podcast that's going out to YouTube. I see this as a watch party kind of stream going out to YouTube, maybe a radio show, something along those lines where you're trying to elevate just talking heads productions, right? And you don't want to just be two people on a Zoom coming in talking about your show. You want to be able to take those, map those to picture in pictures, update your graphics live with data, including tickers, including lists, including lower thirds, social. The highlight of today is going to be the social aspect, but we're going to talk about a lot of different workflows in today's webinar. So what we're going to do from here, just wanted to show you kind of what a fully realized production kind of looks like. But now we're going to pull back out. We're going to open a new project and we're going to talk about how do we build something like this. So the elements we're going to focus on building are, how do I take this title and countdown? This graphic does not come with a countdown. How do I add the countdown clock? How do I make it look the way that I want it to? Fonts on brand. We're going to build out our full screen list down here. So we're going to say, how do we take these different elements, map this to a Google Sheet, and then be able to update this data live from that Google Sheet. And then last but not least, we're going to take this graphic and we're going to build out our title up here, our list over here, which is going to be the same list as the one in that full screen. So we're going to use the same data source to power two different graphics. And then we're going to make this a social controller. So using our chat functionality. So let's dive into how we do that. So if you are a first-time user of Captivate, welcome. We are going to talk about a few key things right here about how we actually get a project going. So number one thing I want you to know about Captivate is that it works on both Mac and Windows. So if you have a Mac at home and you want to build out some graphics that you want to bring into the office to import onto your Windows computer, absolutely not a problem. So we run on both just as well. And our next release, again, coming later this year, will have full ARM support for Mac. Uh, Walking through the different sorts of panels over here, I'm going to actually click on this setup button up here. We have a few different options for how this is all laid out. At the end of the day, it is all drag and drop. So if I wanted to move my program monitor somewhere else, I can move my program monitor wherever it needs to be. But if I click right up here on setup, it goes onto my other monitor, but I can come over here and this is kind of what we recommend if you're just getting your graphics set up, getting them going. So going from left to right, our project panel over here, this is where all of our layers, all of our different elements for our graphics are going to live. So our graphics, our media sequences, our MP4s, our live video sources, they will all live in our project panel. Over here, we've got our preview window where obviously we can preview our graphics before they go out live, or we can do some minor adjustments like transform, moving them around the page, or adjusting their size in the preview window. Over here, we've got our program window, of course. This is what is currently going out live. We've got an audio monitor right here. And right here in this dropdown, you can select what you want your output to be. NDI, HDMI, SDI, virtual webcam, wherever you need your stream to go. You don't see SDI right here just because I don't have a Ultra Studio or anything like that hooked up to my laptop. But if you have a supported SDI card, Blackmagic AJA, you'd see that option and be able to send out key and fill directly into your switcher. Audio mixer, I'm a video switcher. We'll talk about those briefly today. I'm going to kill them right now. And then we've got our properties panel, which again, we'll talk a little bit more about later, but this is where all of our data updates can be made. A couple more things, just housekeeping, getting set up kinds of things. If this is your first time, if you needed to change the frame rate and resolution of your project, you can come up here to settings, project. That's where that is going to live. So if Captivate broadcast goes up to 4K, Captivate present and sport go up to 1080 60. So if you need to go up to 4K, that's where another thing you'll need broadcast for, and I'll talk about those add-ons in 1 second. You can update those there. And then one thing I did forget to mention about output, if you are not using NDI, SDI, you wanted to use us as the source of truth, you can come up here to start streaming and send out RTMP to one destination. So if you wanted to send it out to RTMP, or if you're signed in with Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Switchboard Live, anything like that, you can send directly to those places via RTMP. All right, last sort of housekeeping thing. Over here, we have the ability to add multiple channels. So if you wanted to send out maybe your score bug on channel 1 and all of your other graphics on channel 2, you can add multiple unique channels in Captivate. So if you needed to send out multiple NDI sources, multiple SDI sources, channels is a great way to do that. Again, Present and Sport come with 1 channel. Captivate Broadcast comes with up to 16 channels. And to answer that question earlier, you can just purchase an add-on specifically to get more channels of output from Captivate and add that to your Present and Sport license, I believe either monthly, annually, or perpetually to that license. However, let's talk about what most of you are probably here for today, which is actually getting your graphics, building out your project. How do we get up and running with Captivate? So one way we can do that is by coming down here to Add New Item. I can add a few new items to my project, one being a title or graphic. If your goal is to create as many graphics from scratch as you want, that's going to be the way to go. Just click on title or graphic and you'll basically get a blank slate to start from scratch. Captivate Broadcast has an After Effects composition feature where you can bring in the ability AEP or MOGRT files directly into Captivate to play those out live from here. You can also tie those graphics directly to a data source. So as an example, if you built a lower third AEP file, you can take that lower third, import the AEP file, not have to do anything to it, import it into Captivate, tie it up to your Google Sheet, and now you created 100 different versions of that lower third with names and subtitles that you can just click on which version you want to send live, which name and subtitle to go live, and you're all set. Shot layouts, we'll talk a little bit more about shots at the end. It's basically building a composite. So if you wanted to build out multiple graphics and multiple scenes that you want to use, you can build those out as shots. I mentioned media sequences earlier. These are playlists of videos. Again, this does not come with Present and Sport, but is available as an add-on to both of them. We have a ton of different transition effects. You can bring in live audio and video, which I actually am going to do right now. I'm going to bring in my webcam right here. And I'm going to bring in my my FaceTime camera right here because I'm going to be using these a little bit in our project today. So I brought in my live video sources again. If my computer is receiving USB, SDI, NDI, anything like that, all of those sources will be exposed, available in Captivate. Except if you have present in sport, SDI is not available with that. SDI is an upgrade available as well. Workflows, not going to highlight too much there. And then import content. I can do MP4, MOV, MP3, PNG, whatever I wanted to import, maybe that I already built somewhere else, I can import content. All right. However, I would say that is not necessarily where everyone starts. Where most people start is going to be in the library. So up here we have our toolbar. If you don't see this when you open up Captivate, you can go to View and then Toolbar to be able to see this. I can click right here on my library and get all of my graphics. We're going to get into the Nexus graphics in a second because that's what we're going to be building out today. But just to show you what's available, if anybody here is doing sports, I love our Flux graphics package. This is going to give you scoreboards, lineup graphics, stat graphics for team and player comparisons. It's going to give you leaderboards. It's going to give you schedules, head-to-head graphics, everything you need for a live sports production. We have a great brand new news template. We have two, actually, with Veritas and Strata. Veritas, just to give you an example, lower thirds, list, picture in picture, coming up next, social graphics, everything you need here to produce a high quality news show. Again, what we are spending our time with today is our brand new unreleased Nexus package. Again, this will be out very soon. And we're going to pull in some elements into our project just to build out a couple of those shots we were talking about earlier. So I'm just going to take a quick look at my notes and remind myself what we need. We need our background. We need our full screen logo right here. And again, I'm just dragging and dropping these into my project so that we can use them in our production, right? Until they are in our project panel right here, they are not a part of the production. So I'm going to drag that in right there. My pastels list, my pastels lower third call out, or these will be, again, renamed to Nexus very soon. And I believe that's it. Oh no, my large pip left. There we go. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about building out some of those shots that I was building out in the production earlier. I need the show name too. All right, I'm going to move this down to the bottom. One thing to note about your project panel is that everything over here is hierarchical. What does that mean? It's all layers based. So if I move my background up to the tippy top and I play my background into the program monitor, I may wonder why none of these graphics appear when I click on them. The answer is they are hidden behind the background. So if I come down here, drag my background down to the bottom, click on play, now I will get all of those graphics on top. Couple other things to highlight about our project panel over here. We have the ability to map these to specific hotkeys. So if I wanted the lower third to play every time I hit A on my, nope, we'll go with D. D on my keyboard. I can hit D on my keyboard, play that on, hit D on my keyboard, and play that off. I also have the ability to set a custom duration. So if you look over here when I hit D, this graphic is going to stay on the screen until I tell it to come off. This is probably how most graphics are used by people. This is probably the most common use case. However, if you want to come in here and say, I want this graphic to stay on for 5 seconds, type that in. I hit D on my keyboard, it'll stay on for 5 seconds and automatically animate off without me having to do another button press. So just a couple of easy ways to get going over there. All right, we're going to start building out some graphics right here. And where I want to start today is going to be our full screen logo, right? So we've got this Art Talk podcast. And what this graphic is actually doing when I click on play, it's just an image right here, just a pre-created image right here, and then a couple of colors. So I mentioned I was going to get to my properties tab a little bit later. Our properties tab has 3 main things that we can do in Captivate Live. Number 1, first thing it has is I can update the live values. This means anything that I have set as variable in the title designer, we'll take a look at what that means in a second, I can update directly from this window. So I don't have to go in, build another custom title, export that, bring it back out. No, I just make a quick update and that graphic is changed live, hence the name live values. So if I wanted to, for instance, change this logo, I just click right there on choose image and I click right here on what I want that logo to be. And now I've got a new blue logo right in the center of my graphic. And honestly, this is a great use case for live values because this isn't a graphic typically that you're going to be changing all that often. It's not something that you need connected to a data source, right? What is the data source you'd even use if you just wanted to kind of put this up here? It's very basic, very simple. You can just make that quick change in live values and you're all set. However, say you wanted to maybe use this project for a bunch of different shows, right? Maybe you wanted to have different looks that you can maybe cycle between. I can go over here to my values grid. I didn't need to turn the graphic off, and I don't want to see my face in the program monitor, so I'll put that back on. And I can add a few different options right here. So if I double click right here, I have the option to add another image. And what this is going to do is allow me to cycle between these images. So now if I double click on this new blue, I'll get that version of the title screen. And if I double click on this one, I'll get that version. And if I wanted it to kind of play through that, it also has a sequencer down here. So if I click on show sequencer, I can add all of these to a sequence. So I can click on these different rows and click on add to sequence. There we go. Add to sequence and then add to sequence. Turn sequencing on, say how often I want the interval to be, and you can see it's automatically changing every 3 seconds between the two different versions. So a great use case for this might be a crawl. It might be a ticker where you are cycling through data that you want to continuously change. All of this, again, can be done from a spreadsheet, something like that. But just to show you, the values grid built in can do this as well. You can easily think of this as a built-in spreadsheet capability in Captivate. All right. There's one more thing I want to do to this graphic, though, and that is add a countdown clock. So we're going to just showcase the title designer real quick to talk about that countdown clock. So to get into the title designer for a specific graphic, I'm going to click right here on Edit. When I click on Edit, it is going to bring me into the title designer for this graphic, giving me the ability to start making those customizations that I want. So if you've kind of used Adobe products in the past, I imagine this looks pretty familiar. You have your different layers down here. Again, all hierarchical. You've got your timeline. So this shows how your graphic is going to animate on as time goes on. We've got the pause point right here. If you remember earlier, I said your graphics will stay on screen until you tell them to go off. We know where to stop it based on that little pause marker right there. So you can go through all your different graphics, but again, let's add that countdown clock. So how do we think about doing that? Well, let's come up here to add text. You also have the ability to add shapes, audio, turn some things on, different dots, different grids, all up here. But I'm going to add text, and I'm going to add variable text. Difference between static and variable text is something that I want the ability to change live. Static text, a great example would be maybe the name of the show. That's never changing. You don't want the ability to edit it. You don't need the ability to edit it. Variable text, a countdown clock's a great example. You need the ability to edit it because it needs to change from 10 to 9:59 to 9:58. Click on variable text and we're all set. I'm going to drag this down. You see I got a new layer created down here. And I'm just going to type in 0000 because this is going to be my default value that I base everything on. I'm going to change my font to match the rest of the fonts that I'm using in this project, which is this one. All right, and now we're most of the way there, right? We've got our font. That is not where I want it to be, though. I really want it to be centered. Rather than me trying to figure out what centered is, I'm going to come up to alignment and say center in frame horizontally, and that will automatically move my graphic to be centered right there. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So if I go to my timeline, well, nothing is really happening. It just kind of sits there, and then it just cuts off, cuts on, which is not what I want. What I wanted to do is just follow what the logo is doing, right? So I'm going to just change the length of this graphic to match however long the logo is animating on for. And now when I click on this down arrow for both of these graphics, this one has nothing. This one shows two transitions. This is how it animates in. This is how it animates out. I'm just going to control click on that. Say I want to copy this transition and paste it as the in. Copy this transition, paste it as the out. And now we've got a graphic that animates in, animates out, and is all set to go. When this goes green, that means it is all rendered. And you can see now, see how that graphic kind of animates in, animates out? That's exactly what I'm looking for. If I wanted to use a different animation, I could click over here on this kickout window, go to this drop down, transitions, animations, and this is where our whole library of animations lives. So if you have a specific thing in mind, you know how you want it to animate, look through this. If you can't find what you're looking for, manually keyframe what you're looking for. So I'll click right here on the check, let that render out, and now we've got a countdown clock. That is not counting down. So last step to get it to count down, I'm going to tie a data source to this graphic. This is one of the things I want you to take away from Captivate today. Everything I'm showing you can be driven by live data. So live data could mean something like a spreadsheet, right? So I come over here to add source, general. It could be an Excel file, a CSV file. It could be JSON. It could be XML. It could be our weathercast, which automatically for a specific zip code gives you current, daily, hourly temperatures, conditions, wind, all of that information. We're going to talk a little bit more about our social one today. We're going to highlight our chat controller a little bit later and how that all works. Sports is a huge one for data, right? We can tap into Daktronics units. We can tap into Fairplay, OES, TISA, Varsity, Whiteway, New Tech Data Link, Scoreboard. We have our own scoreboard tool. So if you don't have the data, you can automatically populate the data using just by driving it on an iPad, iPhone, whatever you want it to be. Sportscast, Stat Crew, all the way down the line with worship, pro presenter, easy worship. Again, what we're doing right now, we're just going to general clocks. We have two options, either the custom clock or the system time. System time would just be 3:22 right now. That's what it is for me. Might be 12:22 for some of you folks on the West Coast. And I can just click right here on custom clock. And now I'm going to open this up in my local browser and come over here. And now I've got our custom clock controller. And I can say that I want to make this my, this is going to be my countdown clock. How long do I want it to be? 10 minutes. Add new. Great. And now I can come over here to my preview panel. And this is how I tell Captivate where I want this graphic to be, right? So I go to link data right here. I've got countdown right there. I just drag and drop it. That's all I have to do. Drag and drop it to where I want it to be. It will reanimate. It will know the length of that clock. And when I play it out, I've got a countdown clock all ready to go. So I would just click over here on go and get it all set to go. So got that clock counting down, and we've got our clock counting down over here. So now we know when the stream is going to start. Just a quick tip on how to get data going, but maybe we want the data to be a little bit more than that, right? So we've got our title screen. Let's keep building. Let's build out, what should we do next? We should do our list next. So let's do our full screen list. I'm going to come over here. And you can see in properties, I've got my bullet points. I've got all my different elements, but I don't want to just have to go in and type something into Captivate every time. I want to be able to tie this to maybe some cloud solution so that my producer, who doesn't live in New Jersey like I do, can go in, tell me what the show's about today, update it in a Google Sheet, and then I can just have it ready to go in my graphics. So how I'm going to do this, again, same as the clock. I'm going to come over here to add source, go over to general, not general, productivity, Google Sheets, new input. And now I'm going to get an option right here to use Google Sheets. So this is what it will look like after you've signed into Google. And then you can either just copy and paste the link to the spreadsheet right there, or you can click right here on the one you want to use. So I want to use the agenda. And when I click on agenda, it will give me this graphic. We're going to spend a little bit of time looking at what we've got in our preview window. So if you remember, I was just dragging and dropping all of my clock. I just map where my clock goes. However, I've got 5 rows right here, but I only have one option of how to use Captivate in my preview window, in my link data section, which isn't what I'm looking for at all, right? I need the ability to take all 5 of these and map them to all 5 rows. That is what we call in Captivate block mode. So if I come right here and I turn block mode on, you will see that now instead of just 1 up here, I have 5. And I can just map these where I want them to go. So I can do that again by dragging and dropping. Another way, if you're feeling fancy, is to just right click on these and map them. So line 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5. And then you'll notice that it hasn't updated. That is because I have not told that I want it to play. So now I'm telling it that I want it to play, and we've got all of those graphics in there. We can always go into the title designer, update the font size, update the style, the fit box to text, fit text to box, how it should look within these boxes. But that is just a very easy way to kind of get up and running, tie that to a spreadsheet, and be ready to go. I did not have a title in my section. I messed that up. So what I would do, I'm just going to come back to properties. And I'm going to say this is called how to use Captivate. Hit enter. And now that's called how to use Captivate. And I don't know if you guys caught that. One of my favorite things about this graphic, I love it about this collection, is how these lines automatically animate depending on how long the text is. So you'll see if I like change it to new blue Captivate, those lines at the top automatically go out, they expand, and then they contract depending on how long your text is. So that's a nice little resize feature that we have in the title designer available to resize depending on what another layer is doing. All right, Let's shut that graphic down. We're going to open back up our program window over here. And now we've got our list. But I also want this list to map to this list. I want to be able to just be able to talk about it in the full screen, but then I want to be able to talk about it when I'm building out that picture in picture, right? So I've got the lower third, I've got the picture in picture. I want to be able to talk about it kind of in both places. So I'm going to do the same exact thing I just did. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to close my program monitor, and I'm now going to put this picture in picture over here and just go through the same steps. Add source, productivity, Google Sheets. And I already have this sheet selected. So sheet one, great. Block mode's on. And now we just link this data up. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. So if we want to highlight it at the beginning, put it into a full screen so that everybody knows what we're talking about, has some time to read it, some time to focus on it, that's perfect. And then we pull it back so that they can see us now talking about it a little more animatedly, but we have it on screen so that they don't forget what we're talking about. We can go through each item. We have the same data. So if anything changes in these data, if I wanted to have different pages and paginate through, so I can say, we're going on page 1, now we're going to page 2 of this data. The way block mode works, if you add a line break in between sheets, if you leave an empty row, it knows that that is where you want the page breaks to be, and you can cycle through different pages of your graphics. So just an easy way to be able to have multiple sheets control those graphics. And then a nice little feature over here, if you come over to playback title in this dropdown, it says the sheet controller knows what version it knows what titles it's connected to. So if you want to be able to play out this graphic just from right here, but only on one of them, you can click right here. Okay, I only want it to play the full screen list. And when you click on play, it only plays the full screen list into program. It doesn't also play the pip list, right? So I could also do it to all titles. I could do it to just one, however you want to set it up. And then just the small features, if you were to, we talked about autoplay a little bit with the values grid. You can autoplay through Google Sheets, and then you can also auto refresh. So we can pull data as low as 5 seconds to get new data from the Google Sheet into Captivate. All right, folks, thanks for bearing with me. We're getting to the highlight, maybe what brought you here today, maybe what didn't, but we're going to talk a little bit about the chat controller. This is how we're going to be able to build out social graphics, and then we'll just talk about building out those shots to wrap everything up. So I've got this lower third callout graphic right here. This is kind of designed to be a lower third, a template, whatever you want it to be. I put its duration at 5. I'm just going to play it infinitely. But one thing I encourage you to do, if you see a graphic and maybe it's not what we had in mind, maybe you have something else in mind. Take our graphics, adapt them however you want, right? They can be anything you want them to. Just because we said this is a lower third call out or a lower third with a headline and something else doesn't mean that that's what it is to you. You might see that this is a better social media graphic. This is a better, I could turn lower third into a scoreboard somehow. Probably not, but dream big. Take what we give you as a great stepping stone, but then I encourage you to use our title designer to build out your own custom ideas or use our chat controllers to tie it to something completely different. So I'm going to take this lower third call out, go over to add source, social, chat. And that's going to open that up. I like it in a browser a little bit better. So I'm going to open this up in a browser and we're going to take a look. So I set this up a little bit earlier. It was pulling from, about the Guardians and the Tigers stuff. If you guys are watching this and not baseball right now, I'm not sure what you're doing, but that's appreciated. I'm going to delete all of those. Come over here to show sources, and this is how we're going to get set up. So when you launch the chat controller for the first time, this is what you're going to see. And then I can click on show sources, and this is what's going to be able to allow me to connect to these different social channels to be able to pull what I want live. So to give you an example, I'm not signed into Facebook, but for YouTube, you can click on add new source, select what channel you want, and then select what video you want, right? So this is just my personal YouTube channel, but I could, select one of these videos and pull in the comments directly from this video. This one works really easily, really well. You can just click on return to messages, and now you will see all of the comments on that video, right? So that's a very easy way to be able to do it for YouTube. Again, this works with X, this works with Teams, this works with Zoom. Teams and Zoom connect automatically. You don't need to worry. I can't connect to them right now, but if I was connected to a Zoom call, I could pull in those chats automatically. Just to show you this real quick, though, with YouTube as a quick example, I'm going to click on return to messages, and now we have a few features here. So number one, I can just click on play, and this graphic will play. It will play just this text. But this is a great feature because it gives you, one, moderation capabilities, right? You're not just pulling in every tweet live, you're pulling in what you want to live. You can also come over here to this button up here, and this you can build out a playlist. So if you want to build out a custom playlist of just the ones you want to play, and this could be great as like a sidebar, right? Maybe using that list graphic or something similar to that or a ticker. You can pull in those live and have it every X amount of seconds autoplay through those different graphics. You can get the autoplay function going by clicking up here on this pause button, changing that to play, and then you say, hey, advance every X amount of seconds, loop the messages, and tell it when to start. And you just click on the plus, 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 and you're all set to go. However, I'm going to not use autoplay right now. I'm not going to show my source. No, I'm going to click. I'm not going to do the playlisting. I'm just going to click on a graphic, right? So this I can click right here on play. But first, what I need to do is tell Captivate where I want this stuff to live, right? So I can come over here, and now I need to tell Captivate, hey, what should go where in these graphics? I'm going to use the name field down here. So it's going to automatically pull in the name. And then I'm going to pull in the message field right here. And that's going to pull in the message. So I'm going to just use a little bit of a different message right here just to show that what this looks like. Close says who. We got a 13 race card right here today, right? And now this is a very simple graphic that I took from a lower third, but now we've got it. And now we have interactivity, right? We are bringing the people who are watching our stream to be included as a part of our stream. We're saying chat, join our stream, and now we've got the chat in our stream. So it's a great way to be able to build community and get people excited and say, hey, that's me on screen, and get all that information in. The different data sources that we bring in for the chat controller can be found in the preview panel over here. So number of comments, date and time that it was posted, the handle, image, how many likes it had. We can bring in the profile picture or use the source icon. So if I wanted to show, hey, this one came from YouTube, this one came from Twitter, this one came from Facebook, I can use the source icon field to be able to do that. The username, the title, all of that information can be used in those graphics. All right, let's put the cherry on top, and then we can wrap this up and take Q&A if there's been any questions in the chat. If you've been watching this and you had a million questions racing around in your head, now's the time. Throw them in the chat, and we'll get to them as soon as I wrap up kind of talking about shots. Shots is the way that we're going to build out our show. Shots is the way that we're going to be able to build out those composites and be able to go from shot A to B to C to D through our show and animate through the different elements that we have, right? So I'm going to use my background in all of these because it typically when you go from a shot, it animates the whole thing off and then animates it all back on. So if I wasn't using my background, you would hit this camera every single time that you go from shot to shot. That's an option you can turn on or off. The way I like to do it is I put my background into every shot so that when it goes from shot to shot, it knows that the background is in both shots and it doesn't reanimate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my background right here to my full screen logo. And I'm going to click down here on group into a shot. And now I'm going to click on this shots button up here at the top. And now we've got a little composite of what this looks like, right? We got a little thumbnail is the word I'm looking for of what this looks like. And I'm also going to build out the background with the full screen list. And I'm going to click on group into a shot. And now we've got that version of our graphic. And now the fun one, we're going to build out the pastels background with the large pip left, with the list right, with the lower third call out, with the pastel show name, right? When I click on group into a shot, this is why I love this collection. Like it's just designed to all work together. So you could even, in that bottom right-hand corner, you could throw a social graphic, a bug, whatever you want to just kind of, fill that space if you wanted to, but I think it still looks great either way. I think the only thing I didn't say is how do I take a video source and put it into this lower third box? Well, if I come over here to that graphic, that single large pip, I can come in my properties panel and the properties asks me, hey, what video do you want to use here? And I have two options. I can either say follow the video switcher, which I can open up, and that's the option I'm going to choose, or I can just basically hard code a specific source there. I can switch between which I want it to be, but again, any source I'm bringing in, I can map to that. I'm going to say follow switcher because what this gives me the ability to do is go into my switcher and now toggle between which one I want to be there at any given time. So I can just click between them. If I'm bringing in other sources, I can just click on which ones I want to do, and we're all set to go. So that is my spiel. I think I took a little bit longer than I usually do today, but we did cover a lot of ground. So I'm going to take a quick look at the chat, see if I missed anything, see if there are any other questions, and we can take it from there. What's up, Naomi? Anything you want to add?
That was awesome.
Oh,
Lots
come
of
on.
info. Looking good. Yeah. Raheem had a question
All right, let's
about.
see. Yeah, let's see. I have a logo, as Jacob had earlier, in the middle of the background. Under
Mhm.
transform, can I animate it by keyframe? Meaning, can I move it from the center to the bottom corner? Yeah, absolutely. So by keyframe, yes. If you want it, so let's just do an example. I'm going to click on edit right here. That's the wrong graphic, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click on edit right here, and we'll do it for this guy, right? Maybe we just want to keyframe it. So I'm going to take my logo, and again, we might have a transition effect that does this, right? That's the first place to start so you don't have to manually keyframe it. I also understand that keyframing is very easy, and if you want to just do it that way, you can too. So I can just delete these real quick. I'm going to go to frame number 1 right here for New Blue. I am going to say, where does it live? Motion and data. Turn on keyframing, and now you'll see right here, I've got keyframe number 1, and you can kind of see right here, there's a little circle. That circle indicates I've set a keyframe in that spot. So if I come over here, it also highlights, so you'll see when I go away from it, keyframe 1 isn't highlighted. When I'm on that exact frame, keyframe 1 is highlighted. So I think you said move it from the center to the bottom corner. Yeah, I'm going to move it from the bottom corner to the center, just as the example here. But I could just drag this down here, say this is where I want my graphic to be. Great. And now come up to my pause point, set another keyframe by clicking on the plus right there. And then I can just go there and I'm just going to alignment center and frame, set my second keyframe there. Now it's going to render out. And now you'll see when I click on play, it animates in, right? So that is how you can do it as a manual keyframe. Again, you could also just come in from, and like, this isn't too different from like our fast left. So if I came over here to these and I got rid of I turned off keyframing, for instance, and I brought in fast left, right? Like, you know, we're halfway there, right? Like this is, we don't have it from the bottom corner, but we have it from the bottom, the edge, and you can always change it to make it exactly what you want because you can stack transitions. Well, thanks so much, Tully, for joining. It's always appreciated. Great to have you here. This will be posted to YouTube within, as quickly as we can. So you can always review it later. There's a ton of helpful content on YouTube. If there's something that I didn't cover that you want to learn more about, great resource is our new Blue library. So go check that out. And again, you have my meetings link if you have any specific questions for your use case. But again, thank you so much to everyone for joining, and we'll catch you at the next one 2 weeks from today.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.